So here's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, AI. Everyone's talking about it, of course, but the real question is, how do we actually make it work for our businesses? Because here's the thing, the possibilities are endless, but guessing is too risky. And sitting on the sidelines, that's not really an option either, because your competitors are also making their move. And that's why I want to tell you about NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 AI cloud ERP trusted by over 43,000 businesses. It brings everything together, your financials, inventory, commerce, HR, and CRM, into one single source of truth. And that connected data is what makes your AI actually smart. Instead of just guessing, NetSuite intelligently automates routine tasks, delivers actionable insights, and helps you cut costs and make fast AI-powered decisions with confidence. And here's what's really cool. With NetSuite AI Connector, you can use the AI of your choice to connect to your actual business data and ask every question you've ever had. Who are my key customers? What's my cash on hand? What are my inventory trends? Plus, automate those tiresome manual processes. This isn't another bolted-on tool. It's AI built into the system that runs your business. NetSuite helps you stay ahead of the pack. Right now, get our free business guide, Demystifying AI, at netsuite.com/SPI. The guide is free for you at netsuite.com/SPI. netsuite.com/SPI.
I don't care if you go viral. I care if you are putting food on the table, paying your bills. And on Instagram, the biggest difference maker is direct message automation. Promoting things on Instagram for the last 20 years has been click the link in my bio. And what happens when you say that is half your audience, they're not interested. But then the half that is interested, they are now being told directly by you, don't engage with this post. Go somewhere else, do something else. If instead you use direct message automation, where a creator will say, comment the word blank and I will send you blank. Now your post is getting hundreds of comments. Those comments are getting instantly sent the thing that they want. You're getting more engagement, which leads to more views, which then creates like a positive feedback loop, more engagement, more views, so on and so forth. And the fortune is in the follow-up. Absolute game changer. It's proven to increase the vanity metrics of views and engagement, but it's also proven to drastically increase sales, click-through rates, and all of that.
You're probably curious about Instagram, right? Well, I got the master here, Brock Johnson. We're going to talk about tips, tactics, mentality on how to grow on Instagram this year, because it's a new year and we want to set you up for success. Brock, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
In the new studio.
Brand new. Yeah, no, I'm fired up.
I don't think anybody even really knows what this is about. So we'll have to reveal that later. There's a hook for you. I'll share with you at the end what's going on. But Brock, I want to talk about Instagram. You are an Instagram expert. You have students. You get to go to amazing places to speak about Instagram. I just want to start off really, really quick with a very kind of hard question, which is if somebody were starting Instagram today with 0 followers, 0 brand deals, 0 experience, what's one thing that they would do that would basically kill their chances of doing well right from the get-go?
Yeah, I would say it is comparing themselves to creators who have come before them. I was tempted to answer your question by saying following people who have come before them. I think you can follow other people to get sources for inspiration, to see what are other people doing that I can borrow for my own stuff, or what are other people doing that there's like a gap in the market and I can fill that need. So I think that that can be helpful to a certain extent. But I think that comparing yourself to others, specifically in their outcomes, right? Looking at how fast they grew, how many followers they have, how much engagement they're getting, that is going to lead to failure so fast because you are not going to see outcomes very fast. You're not going to see outcomes like they have for probably years. And it's just going to defeat you and leave you with this sense of like, oh, why not me? This victim mentality. And it's going to absolutely crush your chances of ever having success.
Because we hear stories all the time of the creator who just got started yesterday and then they're blowing up, right? What is a usual average sort of cadence of expectation for results on Instagram? Like what can we expect if you're just starting out?
Probably multiple months, if not years. I believe the average growth rate for a small brand or business on Instagram is like 8% per month.
Okay.
So that's really a small amount of followers, right? We hear about these like viral success stories and that's what sticks in our brain, but it takes many months. I would say usually I used to say commit for 90 days and then I extended to commit for 120 days. Now I say commit for at least 6 months, but the real advice is probably commit for at least a year. And when I say commit, like consistency and all the other things that I'm sure we're going to talk about today, but a year's worth of that. And then you can go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, maybe this just absolutely is not working. But to take your first question even a step further, what so many people do is they give up after a month or 90 days, or even I've heard examples of people messaging me, hey, it's been a week. Hey, it's been 2 weeks. What's going wrong? Yeah. And I reply, what's going wrong is you're expecting results after less than a month of work. So it's going to take time, but you got to commit to it.
Yeah, the commitment is important, but of course there are many ways that we could approach Instagram. If you're just starting out from scratch, what are you doing? What are you posting? Are we doing photos, carousels, I hear are a thing, reels, stories? What's the gist? What is your best strategy for somebody who's literally just getting started?
Yeah. First, we need to identify what is our focus going to be, or our niche, or however you want to say it. Like, what is that topic we're going to focus on? Luckily, if you don't know exactly what that is, you don't have to have that ironed out before you start posting, but you usually have to have that ironed out before you actually start growing.
Okay.
So you can start throwing things at the wall and to experiment, like, what do I like to do? What kind of content do I prefer to create? What am I good at creating, or to just practice? But if you actually want to see results and growth, it's going to come from starting with that niching down, that getting focused. But then from there, early on, I would focus primarily on Reels. I would say probably 80% of your focus should be on Reels. Reels on average reach more new people, like the non-followers. And so obviously, if you don't have any followers because you're just getting started, you need to start posting Reels. But don't neglect the other formats. Continue to post carousels, post photos. The format that I would say you could neglect the most early on, like early on, is stories, because stories are almost exclusively viewed by followers. And if you don't have very many followers yet, at most you're going to be getting a couple of views on your stories. And not that those people don't matter, but just thinking about the return on your time investment, it's probably best to wait on stories if you have to choose something to wait on.
So short form video, I think we all know that this is where the attention is right now. How often are you recommending we post? So this goes with the consistency thing. How often and how much?
This is such a great question. Probably the number one question I get. And my answer is not a numerical value. My answer is, I think it's an 8-word sentence. The more you post, the more you grow. Is that 8?
8 total.
Okay, yeah. The more you post, the more you grow. So there's a direct correlation between posting frequency, how much you are posting to your feed, and growth rate. And that's all the way to the furthest extreme, which I'm not telling people to post this much, but there are examples of accounts that are posting hundreds of times a day.
Hundreds a day?
Hundreds. There's one viral example that it went viral because they showed their account to Mr. Beast. And so now his name is, attached to it. But they're like an e-news, like entertainment news in the States, but specifically for Bollywood. And they have a staff of dozens of people, but they are posting hundreds of times a day about Bollywood news. If you look at their account, they have like over 100,000 total posts uploaded, which is insane. Yeah. Again, I'm not telling anyone to do this, but they're growing hundreds of thousands of followers per month. They have like 30 something million followers on their account in a relatively short amount of time. So again, not saying that anyone should do that, just giving that as an example. Even myself personally, and there are numerous other studies to back this up, but I did a personal experiment this year where for the first half of 2025, I posted 2.5 times a day.
Okay.
And I grew 20,000 followers in those first 6 months. During those first 6 months, you could argue that that was one of the best opportunities for my growth ever, because I got to interview the head of Instagram during that 6-month period.
Right,
I got to do a bunch of collabs with like big accounts, the official @creators account on Instagram, which has like 20 million followers. That period should have been optimal growth stage. The second 6 months of the year, I scaled from 2.5 posts per day to 4 posts per day, and I gained 60,000 followers. So 3 times the amount of followers in the second half.
Without the collab, without
the collab, without the super cool interview, without like all these big things that were blowing up. And so obviously there's a million other variables, and obviously this is a small sample size, but it's again, just the proof is in the pudding that the more you post, the more you grow.
The more you post, the more you grow, which at least for us old school creators who grew up in the blogging days, right? It was like, you don't post too much because it would overwhelm your audience and your subscribers. But that doesn't seem to be the case here.
No, it's the TikTokification of social media, right? Where TikTok, the reason that it blew up in 2020 and has stuck around, unlike, imagine all those other social networks that blew up, and Vine and Foursquare and Be Real. Remember all these apps that like blew up and they're pretty much non-existent today. TikTok stuck around because TikTok said, hey, we don't care who you follow. We don't care who your social circle is, which is how Facebook worked, right? Connecting local college kids on their local college campus. That was Zuckerberg's original goal. TikTok said, we want to show you what you're interested in. And so just because you follow me, if I post 4 times today, you're probably not going to see all 4. I'm lucky if you see 1, but that one that you see is based off which one would be most interesting to you. So that's kind of like the really great thing about this TikTokification is you could post 100 really bad posts. And if they're all really bad because they're not engaging, they're not captivating, people would not be interested, Well, the good news is they won't be shown to people. Like your worst work won't be shown. Only your best work will be shown. So that's kind of the real strong suit or the benefit of this TikTokification.
So what's the point of trying to get subscribers or followers? Is there a point?
There is a point. The point is that they are slightly more likely to see your post.
Okay.
They are more likely to use your word, to use your shirt, to become a super fan if they are first a follower.
Right.
It's just nowadays, it's a lot tougher to get someone to follow in the first place. The follow is less valuable than it was 10 to 15 years ago, but it is still the next step in that journey. Very rarely are people going to go from just viewer, like non-follower, to customer.
Yep.
There's usually the customer in between in the funnel.
Yep. And this is where we unlock the power of stories now on Instagram, right? Because your followers will see those stories.
Exactly.
And that's where clicks, call to actions, and things like that can come into play, which I found to be a huge benefit of getting onto Instagram versus something like YouTube Shorts, which is still great, and I'm growing hugely there. But getting clicks from viewers there is much harder than followers on Instagram who've seen my videos, who now follow, who then see a story where I'm saying, go here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if video is in fact what we should be doing, let's break down a video. What makes a great video that will get seen by a lot of people?
With short form, it's the hook. The hook is beyond a shadow of a doubt, absolutely everything. 80% of the time, energy, and effort that you spend planning the post, scripting the post, coming up with what's going to be in it should be spent on just those first few seconds. And I think within the world of small business owners and marketers and brands, we've over-focused on the words of the hook, whether that be the text that they're writing on the screen or the words that they're saying. And we've kind of forgotten about something that I think you do a great job of, which is the visual. The visual is so huge, and the audio. I think you do a really great job of those two things. And those are two forgotten elements. And we just focus on like, say this number of words, use this kind of words, use negative language. And like those sorts of things can help. A shorter, more concise hook is usually going to be more effective. A hook that is using simpler language that would be understandable by a drunk grandma, that is usually going to be more effective.
Should I open it or should I keep it sealed?
Yeah, like I could tell my grandma that phrase and she would understand what's happening, especially if I'm showing her like a pack.
Right.
But the visual, like we're visual creatures. So Instagram, people have said Instagram used to be a photo platform and now it's a video platform. I disagree. I think Instagram has always been a visual platform. Short form video, and specifically the hook in your short form video, is just the most visually captivating thing that you can create right now. Paying attention to what video elements are in there. Are there props that you can use? Are there visual cues that can clue someone in? Is there an interesting moment that is going to draw people in? Can you just show a face? Because oftentimes just showing a human face with eyes, it's the same idea as like the thumbnail on YouTube, right? If you have a face in it, people are more likely to click. And so it's those same elements apply to your hook on your reels.
So if hooks are the most important thing, what are some channels or examples from others that you remember because of the hooks?
Yeah. One that does a really great job is wants and needs brand _ I believe that's them. It might be _ brand or brand _. They do a good job. And then citizen _ the artist, he's a musician. They both do something that's called hook swaps, where they take these sort of viral clips, viral moments, super curiosity driven, oftentimes like an underlying story element that get you to lean forward and be like, oh, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
And then you want to keep watching. And then before you know it, wants and needs has transitioned into selling their gray sweatsuit, or Citizen the artist has transitioned into one of his music videos. So they both do a really great job, but they do it a little bit differently. Wants and needs uses pre-existing hooks and then swaps into their own. So they use like already
Like
proven somebody
video.
else's viral clip, viral intro, and then it transitions into their
right? Is
own.
that
And
what
they
it's called? Stitch?
Stitch or Duet. Instagram changes the name all the time on us. And then Citizen the artist does higher production value. It takes a little bit more time and creativity, but he creates his own. And so just kind of different takes on the same essential strategy. They do a great job.
How is that not a bait and switch? Like that sounds like a bait and switch. Here's this thing that's not what my thing is about, but I did it to capture your attention.
Part of it is playing on the overconsumption of trends on social media. There are differences though, because I think like the bait and switch or clickbait on YouTube is like making a promise that you are going to get this thing from this video. OMG, my grandma died. And then the video is like, my grandma died laughing, right? Like that is clickbait. That's what we see on YouTube. On Instagram, it's more like taking something that is dramatic, and it is going to happen in the video. Like Citizen the artist did one where he tripped, and he literally tripped and it fell, and it looked like he was in like Southern California, and it looked like he was going to trip and fall into a tide pool at the beach. And he literally in the video does trip and fall, but then it just seamlessly transitions from his trip and fall into his music video. So you're still getting to see the dramatic, interesting moment of him tripping, or in one case, getting his shoelace caught in like the door of a car, something like that. But also I think people, because it's short form, they're a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
Whereas on YouTube, it's like, you just wasted 20 minutes of my time for your grandma to die laughing. Versus on Instagram, it's like, you wasted 3 seconds of my time, but you were also really captivating and funny. And I got dopamine. So like my box is checked for this video.
And now it's like, thank you for interrupting my thumb scrolling for this thing, right?
Yeah.
So the one that I remember seeing on a lot, like this was a trend that I saw on a lot of people's Instagrams and TikToks, was there was like a person sitting in a chair tied up. You don't know why they're tied up.
Yes.
There's a rope connected to it and a car driving away. You can see the rope getting closer and closer to being taut. And then sometimes it actually does pull the person.
Yeah, the Paul brothers did that trend. I did that trend. I feel like...
Oh, you did that?
I did that one. I did it with... It was tied around my neck and I was standing there. It definitely took a few takes and like my heart was pounding because even though the rope wasn't tied, I was like, what if it gets snagged? Like, what if I do get yanked right now? And my wife's driving the car. It was scary. But again, I also think that committing to your videos is something that isn't talked about enough. I think a lot of people are kind of mailing it in. They're doing the bare minimum. And I am all for low-hanging fruit, easy content. But if all you're doing is easy content, then people aren't going to engage because it looks no different from everyone else. There's nothing unique or creative. And so I think committing, like not necessarily putting yourself in a dangerous situation, like tying a rope around your neck and tying the other end to a car, but committing to the bit. And for some people, that can be as small of a change as just going outside and filming your reels at a park or just in your front yard has been shown to increase engagement and views because there's an underlying instinctual, oh, hey, there's a little bit more variability here.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's a little bit more dynamicness going on. That's why like street interviews are such a popular style of short form content because who knows what's going to happen, right? We're filming on the streets. So I
There's
think
a guy named
committing
Justin
is big.
who lives in Hawaii who goes around and he finds people's pets. He's like, the videos start with, hey, is your pet friendly? And then he takes pictures of the pets. And then the end of the video is always the like reveal, the climaxes. There's these beautiful photos that he takes, but it's the interaction.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's going to happen. He's going to find a pet and then he's going to take photos of it. But how's that owner going to take it? What's the dog going to, is the dog going to behave? Like, we don't know. He's gotten to like 1 million followers just being a street photographer in doing that. He even said for himself as an introvert that this was a great exercise. He, like, the reason why he wanted to do this is because he was afraid to talk to people. And this was his way to kind of document not just these amazing photos of people and their pets, but his own journey of becoming now somebody who's comfortable talking to people.
I love that.
As a stranger. So that, like, to me, that was like, oh, now I'm getting to know this person behind this trend or this thing. And funny enough, when I was in Hawaii for a Pokemon event, I was wearing like this bright Pokemon shirt and he was a fan of my channel.
Oh, nice.
So I got to meet him and he interviewed me and I was like, I don't have a pet, but you can interview me if you want.
Yeah.
I guess Pokemon are kind of like pets.
Similar.
But this repeatable format thing was really, really cool. And of course, you know, my show, Should I Open It or Should I Keep It Sealed? Very repeatable format. It makes it easy for me to create, makes it easy for people to know what it's about. What are your thoughts on trying to find some repeatable format versus what am I going to do today?
One of my big predictions for 2026 is that repeatable formats, specifically in the form of series or even challenges, are going to go rampant. I hope that it's going to last the entire year and that like someone who is starting their own series at the end of 2026 can still like have this virality and pop off with it. But I definitely believe that at the beginning half of the year, there are going to be a lot of people creating these series or challenges and they're going to have wild success because of it. I mean, we could think of a million examples. There's a guy named Gage who is running a mile for every follower that he gains. And he's now got 1 million followers. And he was also, I think, over 400 pounds at the start. And so he's now got over 1 million on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. He's in the Deep Pocket Monster class. And he's
going to run 1 million miles.
3 million now. And he's kind of come forward and said, like, I'm realistically probably never going to be able to run this many. Like, elite marathoners aren't running 1 million miles in their life. But he is running multiple miles every day. He's documenting his journey. He's lost almost 200 pounds, I believe, already,
that's amazing.
Which is insane. And he's documenting it every step of the way. And he's kind of now added challenges onto it. He's like, well, maybe if I can't run 700 miles today, maybe I can run a mile barefoot, or I'm going to run a mile. And he's like doing these other little challenges, raising funds for certain things. So that's one example. There's one guy, he's doing it. He's calling it the isolation year. And he's literally locking himself in what's essentially a prison cell, like a room in his house that they've built to look like a prison cell. for an entire year. And they're going to document the entire thing. And again, I'm not telling people to do this level of extreme, but I've been talking to my community about these challenges. And I'll hear people say like, well, I'm going to do a 30-day challenge where I'm making a different salad every day. I'm like, I love that you have a series that you come up with, but when you are competing against a guy who's running a mile for every follower or locking himself in a room, it's not going to hit the same, right? It's not going to drive that same impact. So I don't think you need to go to an extreme level, anything that's like, again, harmful or dangerous, but like, what can you come up with?
How would
that
you
is
change
a day-by-day challenge? Yeah. So I would do for a salad. Yeah. I would say adding one new ingredient to my salad every day until I reach 10K followers.
Ooh.
So maybe if you get to day 320, you have a salad with 320 ingredients. And it's hilarious.
That's kinda cool.
And it's funny, right?
Yeah.
I was talking with one of our other clients. She invented a at-home workout device thing. And I was talking to her about it. And she said, it's great because it allows people to work out from home, work out from anywhere. It's easy to transport. And she said, what if I did a workout on it every day? I said, well, you're already doing a workout on it every day. So what if instead we did day blank, day one of exercising in a new location with my insert invention. And so now one day she's going to be in a Target parking lot. One day she's going to be on the top of a mountain. There's this great guy who his Instagram is called Discovery Deadlift. And he trudges into like high mountain peaks or middle of the backcountry or desolate beaches with a couple 100 pounds of like a barbell and some weights. And then he does deadlifts. And so it's just kind of taking that same idea of like, what if I did an exercise in a crazy location? But she then is showing, right, that her product can be taken anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's easy to transport. She can show different exercises that you can do with it. So she's essentially selling her product in every video, but it's a creative challenge in the process.
Oh, I like that. So here's something I hear all the time from entrepreneurs. Pat, I'm doing everything. Marketing, customer service, tech support. I'm literally the head of everything. And look, I get it. When you're starting out, wearing all the hats feels necessary. But here's what I've learned. At some point, doing it all becomes the exact reason nothing actually gets done. You have this to-do list longer than your workday, right? And that means you've hit that point. It's time to bring in reinforcements before you burn out. And that's where Upwork Business Plus comes in. Instead of spending weeks sorting through random resumes, Upwork Business Plus sends a curated shortlist of expert talent to your inbox in hours. We're talking about the top 1% of talent on Upwork, trusted, top-rated freelancers in marketing, design, AI, and more, who've been vetted for skills and reliability and hired by businesses just like yours. Upwork Business Plus takes the hassle out of hiring and the pressure off your team by dropping trusted freelance talent right into your lap. And that way, you're never stuck spinning your wheels when you need a skilled pro and your projects don't stall. When finding talent you can trust feels impossible, it's easy to default to doing everything yourself. But Upwork Business Plus sources, vets, and shortlists proven experts so you can stop doing it all and delegate with confidence. And right now, when you spend $1,000 on Upwork Business Plus, you'll get $500 in credit. Go to upwork.com/save now and claim the offer before 1/31/26. That's January 31st, 2026. Again, that's upwork.com/SAVE. Terms apply. So I've built a lot of websites over the years, from my first lead exam site back in 2008 to Smart Passive Income and everything in between. And let me tell you, one of the biggest headaches has always been making updates. You have this great idea for a new landing page, or you want to test a different headline, and suddenly you're either wrestling with some complicated platform or waiting days for somebody to help you make it happen. It's a momentum killer, really. That's exactly the problem that Framer solves. Framer is a no-code website builder that gives your team the power to design, publish, and manage your entire site without relying on engineers. It works like a design tool, but with real-time collaboration, a robust CMS for SEO, and enterprise-grade hosting and security. Companies like Perplexity and Miro use Framer because changes go live in seconds, literally one click, and you're published. No tickets, no waiting, no bottlenecks. Whether you're a startup testing your first landing pages or an established business ready to migrate your full site, Framer makes it possible to move at the speed of your ideas instead of the speed of your dev queue. And here's the thing, your website is the one touch point every single customer has with your brand. If making simple updates feels harder than it should, you're leaving opportunity on the table. Learn how you can get more out of your .com from a Framer specialist, or get started building for free today at framer.com/SPI for 30% off a Framer Pro annual plan. That's framer.com/SPI for 30% off. Framer.com/SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. A lot of these examples are big, grand examples, right? And I think there are many examples of other creators who are doing much smaller things that might be easier to grasp, but are still just as interesting. I've been following a couple people who have been challenging themselves to speak in public without filler words. It's like day 1 of trying to speak for 60 seconds without using filler words. And they're on day like 200 now. And you can tell they've completely transformed their communication. And although there's no crazy spectacle, there is a real relatable part of that I think is very nice for people to
And I think it's challenging, right? Like it is something that is a legitimate challenge. It's not something that you would do anyways. Also, it's not something that they're not necessarily inviting the community to get involved with. The community can get involved, but I think that's a misinterpretation when we talk about this. Sometimes people will be like, well, what could everyone do with me? And it's like, I would rather you challenge yourself first. And if people want to do it, that's great, but that's not the focus.
Right.
I have one of these challenges for myself that I'm going to do in 2026 where I'm going to write down the name of every follower that I gain from now until I hit 1 million followers, which I'm like 150,000 away, which I did the math. If it takes me 10 seconds to write down a name and I gain just 250 followers, that's going to take me like 40 minutes to write down the name. So it's going to be...
How far are you in that?
I haven't started it yet. So I'm going to be starting it right before the new year. So like, I really hope I hit it quickly, but also I know, and I'm going to get like a giant sheet of paper. And so when I get done, it's going to be really all of the names written down. And, you know, with obviously losing followers, it's probably going to be 200 to 250,000 names I'm going to have to write down. But like, if there's a day where I gain 10,000 followers, that might take me legitimately hours to write down every single name. But I think the underlying message with that one will also be like, every person matters. It's not just a number. It's not just a data. It's not just something to pat yourself on the back about. It's like, this is a real human being.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's cool. Speaking of data, once you start to get some bank of videos on your Instagram, what data are you looking at to inform how to do better in your next videos?
Retention is a huge one, which Instagram has given us a lot of new stats in terms of like, how long are people watching the video? What's the watch rate after the first 3 seconds? I think those are key. And then depending on what your goal is, I might focus on different metrics. So if your goal was growth, I'm going to focus primarily on shares as a form of engagement and creating content or doubling down on the content that is getting more shares. If I want more sales, I'm in a season of selling, I'm focusing more on comments or things that drive story views rather than shares or virality.
So when it comes to shares, what makes a video shareable?
I have an acronym. It's the word share.
Okay.
S is simple. We've talked a little bit about like dumb it down, make it simple, use easy to understand words. H is hook. We've talked about hooks. A is authentic, which that's obviously a buzzword. How do you be more authentic? I think that you reduce the time between idea and execution. The shorter amount of time you can get with short form video between I have an idea, I want to make a post, I want to talk about this topic, I want to tell this story, and actually doing it, the more authentic it'll be.
The most authentic being like in the actual
in the moment. Like I just had this idea and like I'm in my car. Like how many viral car videos have you seen where a guy's just sitting in his car talking to the camera?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's authentic. That's real. Not spending hours editing it, filtering it, refining it. That stuff is great for long form. That stuff is great for a really beautifully told story. But on Instagram, like just give me the real. So that's authentic. R is relatable. And my tip for relatability is that relatability comes from specificity. And what I mean by that is when you are telling your stories or when you are, let's say, labeling a meme, get specific in your wording. I'll give you an example. Bad example would be if I were to post a trending audio of myself getting mad and I labeled it, me when my reel doesn't get a lot of views. Relatable, right? Anyone in my audience can relate to not getting a lot of views. But if instead I get specific and I say, me when I spend 3 hours editing a reel and it gets 7 likes, there's probably very few people in my audience who have had exactly that experience, but because I've gotten specific, they can now relate with it more deeply and more strongly. So get specific there.
Example.
Instead of being vague. We have a tendency to like water ourselves down thinking, well, I'll appeal to anyone. But the more specific you get, the more you can appeal specifically to people in your audience. And then E is entertainment. The interview that gets all the attention that I did this year was the head of Instagram. The interview that should get all the attention is my interview in a backroom closet with the head of Instagram for business, because he shared a lot more juicy stuff that was not necessarily approved by Meta to share.
Oh, really?
But yeah, we could go into a whole side conversation about that.
Did you have to take it down?
Not take it down. He was nice enough to say I didn't have to take it down, but they asked me to no longer promote it or post about it. So I'll mention it like here.
It may or may not be.
It may or may not be on my podcast or something. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. It was.
Why wouldn't they want you to?
There was just some things that he shared and tips and things that like were not Meta approved. And they're very much like go through legal type of
of
company,
Are these mind-blowing things that like...
I don't know if I would say mind-blowing, but definitely juicier than my interview with the head of Instagram.
If you don't mind, could you share one juicy thing from that?
Yeah, what it is and what actually relates to this SHARE acronym is the E, which was, he said that way too many brands and business owners are focused on educational content, giving tips and value and education, when instead they should be focused on entertainment. He said a few years ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said a few years ago, brands and businesses should consider how entertaining is my content. He said now it needs to be the focus. It needs to be the primary driving factor when you're creating content, when you're writing a script. How entertaining is this post? Is this sentence? How necessary is the framing and the visual, and focusing on entertainment? And we can, get into how to achieve entertainment value, because it's not dancing and being a crazy, silly, goofy clown.
What is the definition of entertainment in that?
Yeah,
regard?
I think part of it is something that you talk about all the time, which is storytelling is a huge part of entertainment. Part of it is the visuals that we've talked about so far. I think considering the stranger is huge, which I think so many people, when they're creating content, they're creating it from their own point of view. But most people who are seeing your posts are either literal strangers, they've never seen a post before, or they are followers, but they don't see posts that often. Mm-hmm. Most people are not like me watching Short Pocket Monster, where I'm like watching every single episode every single night and I'm refreshing at 9 p.m. like, where's today's episode? Most people are just, oh, hey, this is the first post I've seen in a month.
Yeah.
And so with it being in mind for a stranger, does the first few seconds find that balance between grabbing their attention, but still making them curious to know more? Curious to know more, but not so curious that they're confused and lost.
Yeah.
And just formatting it for a stranger is helpful. And then to take it a step further and make it even more practical, with each sentence that you say, each word that you include in the video, just asking, is this necessary or is it redundant? I hope you get fit, be lean, lose weight, and be healthy. You just said the same thing 4 different ways. Like, can we say it one way? Because the more redundant you are, I'm going to get bored and I'm going to scroll away.
Yeah. Dang, that's really good. Thank you. We'll link to that exclusive secret thing. We'll link to it somewhere.
Yeah.
As we wrap up here, there's a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs who are here who don't just want to build a following and become quote unquote Instagram famous, but they want to do business. They want to generate revenue. And so I'm curious your thoughts on what is the best way for a person who now has a following? How might they then convert those followers into dollars?
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about this, because this is the most important thing. This is what I care about the most. I don't care if you go viral. I care if you are putting food on the table, paying your bills. And on Instagram, the biggest difference maker is direct message automation, which is essentially the tried and true way of promoting things on Instagram for the last 20 years has been click the link in my bio. And what happens when you say that is half your audience, or however much, they're not interested, which there's always going to be people who are not interested and they're just going to scroll. Who cares? We do a better job of marketing to make them interested or whatever. But then the half that is interested, they are now being told directly by you, don't engage with this post. Go somewhere else, do something else. And that something else is usually also like a multi-step process of go to my bio, find the link. It's a link menu, select the right thing from the menu. It's confusing.
Right.
If instead you use direct message automation, which is that thing that I think a lot more people are familiar with now, where a creator will say, comment the word blank and I will send you blank. Now, instead of telling people, hey, leave this post alone, you're telling them engage with the post. Now your post is getting hundreds of comments. Those comments are getting instantly sent the thing that they want, the guide, the course, whatever that you're selling, right to their inbox. So it shows up with that little red one, and now they have like a reminder to go click on it. Mm-hmm. You're getting more engagement, which leads to more views, which then creates like a positive feedback loop, more engagement, more views, so on and so forth. And the fortune is in the follow-up. So when someone clicks the link in your bio, you don't know who they are. You don't know who clicked. When they click, you don't know if they became a customer. All you know is that tomorrow you can look back and Instagram will be like, 137 people clicked on your link yesterday. Okay, I can't really do anything with that.
Yeah.
But if I use direct message automation, I can see 37% of people clicked on this link. 98% of people opened this message. Okay, so maybe there's a way I could get more people who opened to actually click. They were obviously interested.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I can literally see the names of every person who clicked. And I can see that of the 10 people who clicked, only 3 purchased. So I can go manually follow up with the other 7, or I could even build automations to follow up, say, hey, I noticed that you were interested in that thing, but didn't see your purchase come through. I want you to know that the sale ends tomorrow night. Are there any questions I can answer? You can then follow up with them. It's an absolute game changer. It's proven to increase the vanity metrics of views and engagement, but it's also proven to drastically increase sales, click-through rates, and all of that.
What tool are you using for that?
I use ManyChat. It's the most popular tool. There are some other tools that do it as well. ManyChat is the most popular, most trusted. And I believe it's the only tool that is an officially approved partner. It's not just like they have access to Instagram's API. They're literally, they meet every week with Meta to make sure that they're in good standing.
+1 on using ManyChat. We use ManyChat now. I've started using it. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, and they have some amazing features that are coming out in 2026 or that came out at the end of 2025. One of my new favorites is the automatic DM when someone follows you. And so business owners are tempted to like, hey, I got a new follower. Let's send them a message that's a sale. I don't recommend doing that. Okay. But what I turned on is I just say, hey, thanks so much for the follow. I appreciate you. That's it. That's no cool. Sale. And so now hundreds of times a day, people are getting that message from me. And I open my DMs and it's blowing up with people being like, hey, thanks. Hey, I appreciate that. Or like liking the message. And it's just like immediately creating that feeling of like, hey, you're welcome here. I appreciate you being here. And it's just creating that engagement.
And then to finalize this conversation, how do you get people from engaging with you in that sort of non-salesy way to then purchasing something from you? Do you have a plan or a campaign, or like, how are you doing that?
Specifically using ManyChat and that new feature, no, not necessarily. I just want to create this positive feeling. And it is shown on Instagram that when someone DMs you or you DM them, that you are more likely to see their next post. And so by them saying like, hey, thanks, they're now even more likely to see my next post. And if in the future I want them to message me a certain keyword, there's already a DM conversation there. So it's not going to be lost in the requests folder, or they're not going to be confused. It's there. They've already opened a message from me in the past. So it just makes it that much easier in the future when I say comment this word or DM me this special keyword, that they know how to do that and they'll get the response they're looking for.
And then do you run sales in an evergreen fashion, or do you have like moments of the year where you're running a campaign?
We definitely have sales, like the typical Black Friday sales and that sort of thing. And we have usually like 1 or 2 annual launches. Besides that, I am constantly driving people to free lead magnets. I think that Instagram is a great top and middle of funnel. And then to get people into a low ticket product or a free product, I think that's what's great on Instagram. I think the more expensive you go, the tougher and tougher it is going to be to actually close that sale on Instagram. Yeah. I find it much more beneficial to like hop on a consultation call or something like that if you're going to sell a high ticket mastermind.
Yeah. They want that conversation. Yeah. Like, are you an actual person?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Great. What would be your final tip to leave people who are now either going to start Instagram or they're there and they're going to take some of these tips? What can the masters say to help these people who are listening today?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's not the sexy answer, but it's the honest answer. And it's just press post. Like, those are the 3 words that I live by. I wish I had been born 50 years earlier so I could have stolen that from Nike before they said, just do it, but just press post. I heard this great analogy yesterday that you will love, which is you can't control how many fish you catch. You can only control how often you fish. You say it all the time. You quote Alex in saying, count uploads, not views, count uploads, not followers. And I think that going all the way back to what we were talking about at the beginning, don't focus on those outcomes, the views, the followers, the things that you ultimately can't control. Just focus on what you can control. How can I improve my process? How can I become more efficient? How can I implement systems so that this isn't taking hours? It's taking a couple minutes a day. But ultimately, just press post. Because like, I could have shared 1 million tips in this interview and maybe 0 of them are going to work for one of these viewers. But in experimenting with these ideas and in just pressing post, they're going to find what does work for them, right? So ultimately, just press post.
And as you said before, the more you post,
the more you grow.
Print it. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
If you've been following me for the last few months, you know that I've been talking a lot about short form video. My Short Pocket Monster channel exploded to over 2.35 million subscribers in just about a year, and it still blows my mind. But there's one part of the process that has always been one of the hardest parts: posting every single day. Not once or twice a week, but daily, sometimes multiple times across multiple platforms. And the more, the better in this world. And that's where most creators get stuck. Hitting record is easy. Staying consistent with posting is the real bottleneck. Rewriting titles, rewriting captions, juggling tags, bouncing between apps. It becomes messy fast, especially if you're republishing these and repurposing these across different platforms. But I found a much better way. It's a new tool called Voobly, and it's built specifically to help you grow your audience faster with short-form video. You upload your video once, and Voobly instantly generates platform-specific titles, descriptions, and tags in your own voice, then lets you post everywhere with a single click. Honestly, I wish this existed when I first got started. It would have saved me countless hours and helped me grow even faster. And for Smart Passive Income listeners, there's a special bonus. The first 100 people who sign up get 6 months at 50% off. That is double the usual offer when you use the coupon code PAT, P-A-T. So go to smartpassiveincome.com/VUBLI and use the code PAT to claim your extended 6-month discount, only available for the first 100 people who join. That's smartpassiveincome.com/VUBLI, coupon code PAT. Ever feel like you're running your business out of a dozen different tabs? Your CRM in one place, emails in another, booking software over here, payment tools over there, and then a stack of spreadsheets trying to hold everything together? What if all of that lived in one place? And what if the platform running it actually helped you do the work? That's exactly what High Level does. High Level is the all-in-one sales, marketing, and automation platform built for creators, entrepreneurs, and agencies. You can capture leads, build funnels, send emails, manage conversations, collect payments, everything from one simple dashboard. And now, High Level's AI makes it even easier. It can help you write campaigns, build pages, follow up with leads, and even automate conversations so you're never losing business while you sleep. I've seen business owners cut their software stack in half just by switching to High Level, and increase conversions because everything finally works together. Whether you're selling courses, coaching, or services, High Level helps you build, automate, and scale without tech overwhelm. So if you're ready to simplify your systems and focus on what really matters, you've got to try this. Head to gohighlevel.com/Pat-Flynn, gohighlevel.com/Pat-Flynn right now to start your free 30-day trial.